Today's episode of Real Talk Christian Podcast is sponsored by the Christian Standard Bible. The goal of the CSB is to be faithful to the original languages without sacrificing clarity, all while maintaining both accuracy and readability. With the beautiful designs and multiple study Bible options, everyone from adults to teens and even children can find a CSB Bible that they enjoy. Learn more at csbible.com. Again, that's csbible.com.
Welcome to Real Talk Christian Podcast, where we drink coffee and have real conversations on faith, culture, and society. I'm Chris Fuller.
And I'm not Janelle Fuller.
No, you are not.
I'm back.
Guess who's back. Okay.
And I'm Marc Hyde.
And on today's episode, we are going to be actually looking at one specific section of passage for the next two episodes, part one, part two. We're going to take a deep dive into impending evil. How do we handle the quote-unquote last days? Mark, are you ready to jump into this conversation?
I am, and you know why?
Why is that?
Because before I came, I went on to other podcasts and said, does anyone talk about this? And the answer is no.
Oh.
So I am ready to talk about it, my friend.
Well, let's go.
Let's go! I think we already missed our normal...
You know what?
Bring the mic down.
I missed it every time with Janelle, too, so people are used to it by now.
Which, side note, if I remember right, I think we scattered the episodes where it was like Chris and Janelle.
Then it was me and you.
Right.
And then it was me and Janelle, and now it's me and you again.
So I really am back.
You really
I missed
are
you
back.
last week, but I had to say, Janelle is a natural on the podcast because she was lighting you up like a Christmas tree, bro.
Well, yeah, especially that first episode.
That first episode, dude,
she
she put you in your place in the first 5 minutes.
Well, you know.
Because you were like, does Regis and Kelly have someone who tell them what to do? And she's like, actually, yes, so sit down and shut up,
Yes,
Chris.
his name is Gilman. I'm like, dang it. I forgot about Gilman.
So I listened to that while I was in the gym. And there was multiple times that I had to stop whatever I was doing to giggle.
That's fine.
Like pulling the weights down. I was like, I had to drop the weights because I'm like, dude, Janelle is roasting you.
It was so much fun, though, to actually finally get her on the show for those two episodes. The one about... what was it? It was being growing up Christian.
You already forgot what you talked with
know.
your wife about?
Growing up Christian
You really
was the
don't
one.
listen to her, do you?
Well, growing up Christian was
You really
one.
don't listen to her.
And then The Chosen versus the World, a look at Christian entertainment, was the one that aired last week.
Well, I have to say, for Janelle's first, which, side note, we've been trying to get her on the show since the conception of the show.
Almost 3 years.
And she finally did it.
She finally did it.
And all it took was Beth dragging me out of South Bend for a weekend.
Yeah, me going, hey, we don't have enough episodes. Janelle, you're in.
Okay, side note, because what's funny though is it's not. I mean, let's be honest. Like we're partners in this. What's funny is you didn't even go, hey, Mark, can I do this? Like, hey, Janelle's doing this. And I said, about time.
Well, because
That's all I said was about time.
For 2.5 years, you've been saying, you got to get Janelle.
begging
You got to
her.
get Janelle. I've had Beth on twice. You got to get Janelle. And I'm like, Janelle, you're doing this. We got to get some episodes in the bank.
Which, I mean, but before we record, we're upstairs talking with Janelle about this stuff for an hour sometimes, 30 minutes. And then she's like, oh, you guys got to go record. It's like, you coming with us? And she goes, I'm going to watch my shows.
It just cracks me up because after the show, she goes, man, and I think I mentioned this too. She's like, podcasting is hard. She goes, this is a lot harder than I thought to
It's very hard.
Stay engaged and continue the conversation and keep the silent, awkward moment parts to a minimal.
I mean, you did cuss. You did crush on me a little bit in that first episode. You're
I missed my mark.
because you were like, Janelle's like, what's wrong? You're like, normally Mark's the hype man, which is true.
You are.
Which
you're,
side
you're
note?
the
I side noted
excited.
twice already. I'm very excited to be here, guys.
Well, it's your first day back.
I had to. So I have had an exhausting week. Beth gave me permission. So we found out a couple weeks ago, day of recording, that Beth had her second miscarriage.
Right.
And so the first week, none of the kids knew. It was very hard on Beth because that was, if you've gone through that was a very hard physical week for her. And this past week, especially for me, it's been a weird week emotionally. I don't want to say hard. It was just weird. It was really cool to see, our church community that we haven't even officially joined New Life yet. And we're already getting cards like, hey, go buy yourself some dinner, or, pastor walked off the stage in the middle of the first song to come give us a hug and say, hey, we love you guys.
Awesome.
Like, how cool was that?
That's cool.
For those of you who are not part of a local church, that's why you need to be a part of a local church. Shoot, where was I even going with that conversation? So it's been a hard week. So I've been really exhausted, just emotionally not having a lot of work to drive, to the point where on the way here, I had to almost prep like a basketball game. I had to put on a pump up playlist, jam out.
Jam, pump it up.
And it included Alexander Hamilton, the musical. I did some Alexander Hamilton, and then I'm like, I need some more, like, less music and more drive, so I had to put on but Tim Parsons, this is for you, my punk pop rock playlist. So, and now we're drinking coffee. But dude, I missed you when I was gone.
I missed you too,
I
buddy.
missed you. I'm glad to be back.
I'm glad to have you back, sir.
It is back on the YouTube channel, which I know. Did you see that thing that Michaela tagged us in when we called her out for? It's like, I know you don't want to be separating from your kid, but when they're 10 years old, you want to get rid of them.
Well, we've been on.
That was awesome.
We've still, even Janelle's episodes were on the YouTube channel.
No, they are. But today we have upped our quality of the YouTube.
We are working on upping our. Maybe actually the audio and the video are syncing together at
Hopefully.
this point in time. We're
and the quality is now 1080p instead of 720p.
What?
We are stepping it up in YouTube land. Which you informed me today that we have crossed the 200 subscriber mark on YouTube.
204 subscribers on YouTube. I hope they have all clicked that little ding bell so that when new episodes drop, when you forget about it in a crazy hectic week or a hard week.
Or if we go live, when you never know we're going to go live.
It just pops up. And we dropped a bonus episode this,
we got 2 bonus episodes.
We've dropped 2 now,
in like a month. Wow. Which one of those was with us But What Does the Bible Say? And then you jumped on with them for a Saturday morning chit chat. And I wasn't able to join, but I was there in spirit on YouTube comments.
Yeah, you were like, blah, blah. Well, and then it was funny because the very next Saturday I jumped on, right? Because I wasn't able to. It was Noel's birthday, but I was still listening to it and commenting like you were on the YouTube channel. They had the guys from the Riot podcast.
I saw that. That was cool.
And then I ended up roasting Gary some coffee because he was like, yeah, I'm drinking some Folgers K-Cup, blah, blah. That's what he's drinking. I'm like, I'm roasting some coffee.
Guys.
Give me your address right now. You're getting some RTC coffee.
Which tonight we're drinking RTC coffee,
We
aren't we?
drinking RTC coffee. Tonight is the Mexican High Grown.
Which is my favorite.
I did it just in celebration of Marc being back. So
thank you. I'm also wearing bright colors on the show.
You
today.
are.
This
you're
is
kind of like Norway right now.
No, this is my South Bend hoodie.
Oh.
I just don't have a red star on it.
Gotcha.
So I guess we can kind of. I mean, it's more Sweden. It'd be more Sweden. It's like Swedish colors.
Sure.
If people were watching, they would know.
So,
but anywho, we are back. We are ready to go.
We've asked some questions, or we've gotten some questions from, I think this is Facebook.
Talk about this, because this was all your dream, man.
Well, so a couple episodes ago, well, it's probably 6 episodes ago now, I had mentioned that we should start like a group for RTC family, right? We don't say fans. We don't say listeners. Well, I mean, you guys are listeners, but you guys
RTC
are family.
Fam. You're the
you guys
RTC
are family
fam.
to us. So we actually started the Real Talk Christian Podcast community on Facebook, and we currently have, 61 people a part of that group?
61, yep.
61 people are a part of that group, and guess what? We get to chit-chat, and we share stories with each other, not only from Marc and I's life, but also from everybody that's in the group. We kind of lean on each other and communicate with each other, and it's been awesome so far.
There's been a lot of fun conversations. Like today, I posted a picture of my office. It was like, hey, what's your view? And dude, we got like... let me pull it up. We got Drake over here who's, look at that slab of meat.
I know. He's like, hey, anybody want some steaks? We're like,
he says, couldn't sell every day. So Drake's over here butching, and he's like, I'll trade you for some coffee. So I'm going to hold you to your word.
Yeah.
Kathleen, I didn't realize this. She's been interacting with us a lot. She's a children's pastor.
Right.
We got David, who works at the ski slopes.
Ooh, nice.
Where he
we
lives.
Had Joe Frericks down in Peru.
Frericks, yep. And then our man, Brian Howard, right there. He is I think he's a carpenter, if I remember right. He's a union carpenter. Yeah. He's one of you folk.
The union guys?
The union guys. Sabrina, she goes, I managed a restaurant at the day spa. And I said, so are people nicer at day spas to you as a,
but
restaurant
I want to know
because most people are jerks.
What is the difference between a day spa and a spa? What's the difference?
Sabrina, help us. What's the difference?
Because I don't know.
And can we get coupons?
Ooh, coupons. Groupons.
And a flight.
RTC Groupons to Canada?
Uh-huh. Oh, when you guys open up the borders. And then, we got Johnny Watt, who's apparently a farmer's insurance front desk up in Oregon. So if you live in Oregon, hit the man up for some We are farmers. Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum.
Sure.
But we have fun like that. We also do, if you could have any guests on the show, who would you have? Which was really fun.
We got some good suggestions, and we're actually going to try. Like, these are just from people that are in the group. So.
I'm going to reach out to Tim Tebow.
But the coolest one was after we dropped the anxiety and depression episode.
Yes.
And we kind of asked, is there anybody else that struggles with that? And we were all able to kind of share our story, including Beth.
Mm-hmm.
Beth shared her story, I shared mine, and we were able to kind of interact with each other and pray for each other and share each other's stories with everybody. So.
It's true. It's, we do Sunday around us. So what did you learn in church today?
Yeah.
Every week you drop in there what can we pray for you about?
Right,
Which is so cool that we can pray for each other in the community, you know? And then, like the March Madness bracket,
that's a you thing, man.
That's all me, man. There's 7 of us. Anyways, I am winning right now.
Every week we ask, hey, what should we talk about at the top of the podcast?
Yep.
So, Mark, what are a couple questions that the people in this group want us to talk about?
So, Raina wants to know if we could travel to any country in the world, where we go. Girl, we answered that question.
We've talked about it several times. We both said Ireland, right?
Yep.
So
we both said Ireland.
Right. That's where we're going.
So Drake asked us, Coke or Pepsi?
Ooh, Coke.
100% Coke. I was a big
Hands
Pepsi fan
down.
back in the day growing
Unless there's it's Pepsi only, and then it's Mountain Dew. I'm going to drink Mountain Dew.
So check this out.
Not
Did
Mellow
you
Yellow.
know that supposedly, I have not tried this yet, but Coke and Pepsi were made differently to taste the exact same based on their conditions. Coke is actually meant to drink warm, and Pepsi is meant to drink cold, because Pepsi was designed for the north and Coke was designed for the south.
Well, I can tell you what, Pepsi,
which I thought was really
nasty,
interesting.
no matter what temperature it is.
Once in a while, I gotta have a Pepsi hit. Once in a while, I got it, because that was my drink when I was a kid.
Mountain Dew.
Pepsi Blue, though. I love Pepsi Blue.
I can't do it, man.
Dude, okay. Y'all weren't ready for this banter, but when I was a kid, I had the saddest moment, right? My mom finally let me walk to the corner gas station by myself from the church that we were at, right? And we went to school there. It was like summer. She was a teacher. She was getting stuff ready. And another teacher's kid named Tim, he was a year ahead of me. We were best friends for years. We were like, Mom, can we go down to Speedway and get something to drink? And she was like, yeah, go ahead. And we both were like, what?
Right there on the corner of Miami and Ireland, right?
Oh, no, this is back in Northwest Indiana.
Oh,
Northwest Indiana. So,
Gotcha.
but kind of the same. It was a bit of a busy road, straight across some intersections, but both moms said, yes, go ahead. And both of us were like, really?
We're gone.
Okay. But I had to take my little brother with me. So we took my little brother. We were walking. And so I used my own money to buy a Pepsi Blue. I got outside, got to the corner. I'm like, here we go. Cracked it open, fizzed, exploded out of this thing. And I lost 3/4 of my Pepsi Blue there on the street corner.
And right there, Pepsi's no good.
And I was like 10 or 11, and that was a traumatizing experience.
Wow.
But Coke or Pepsi, we both would say
Coke.
Now, vanilla Coke or no?
Oh yeah,
vanilla Coke.
Oh, hands down, my favorite.
Have you had Coke? Have you had Coke Zero yet?
I drink Coke Zero all the time.
Let's say, because it's not bad.
All the time. It's really good.
Not bad.
I like it.
Okay, here's another one. Toilet paper, under or over?
Over, per the design.
Yes, it is patented, guys.
Patent design.
It is patented. But check this out.
Seriously,
go ahead.
I'm OCD about it too. Like if I'm at other people's houses,
you'll flip
and it's
other
under,
people's?
I will flip other people's.
Challenge accepted.
Yes, because
every time I go to the bathroom before I
leave
leave here to go home, I'm gonna flip the toilet paper if I remember. I probably won't, but I'll try and remember for you.
If you do that to me, I will think of something. I don't know what.
But check this out. My mom always did under, and you know why? Because as kids, we would walk up and we would hit it, and it would go like unwind. So at my house, I actually have to put it under, because the kids will walk up and go.
Funny story.
And it was all unwind.
Funny story. Shiloh has been doing that lately. If he gets in the bathroom,
yep.
And he did a whole roll. I think last weekend or the weekend before, and I had to sit there. And I'm sitting here rolling it all back up because I'm like,
just fold it.
after the toilet paper crisis of 2020, we ain't wasting no toilet paper around here.
Triggered, but yeah, over under. Over. All right,
last one.
Ketchup. Oh, actually, yeah, I already said the word ketchup.
Yeah, last one.
Ketchup.
All right.
First off, yes or no? Just yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, 100% yes. Now, are you a name brand snob?
No.
Do you have a favorite?
I don't.
Neither. I want ketchup.
I want ketchup. Great value, Heinz. It don't really matter.
That ketchup glaze that Beth makes for the meatloaf. Y'all
she
didn't think I was going to bring
make
meatloaf.
It.
No, she makes the glaze, but she uses ketchup and then Worcestershire sauce and brown sugar.
I love this. She's like, no, I don't make the ketchup, Mark.
So if you want to see us get corrected by our wives, join the Facebook group.
Come
and
on
you will
over.
find it. UFC Janelle going ham on you, and
always
Beth being like, we need to be there live to fact check you, because we apparently, I speak out my butt apparently. So
do I, so don't worry.
But yes, ketchup all the time.
Yes.
On steak.
No.
Do Do you do steak sauce on steak?
If it's a bad steak, yes.
100%. But if it's a good steak?
If it's a good steak, no way.
Nope, 100% no. Eggs?
Yes.
What's better, though, hot sauce or ketchup on eggs?
Both.
At the same time?
Oh, yeah. So
really?
I told you my favorite is to get the hash browns and the fried eggs on top.
That's right.
And the ketchup and hot sauce, and you cut it up. Oh.
Can you tell we're Baptist by how much we talk about food?
So we went to last Saturday, Janelle and I were sitting, I had just gotten up. She goes, I'm really feeling like going out to breakfast this morning. I'm like, let's go. So we went down to the Curve over on East Lincoln Way.
I enjoy the Curve. Did you go with the kids or just you?
Oh,
two?
yeah. No, we went. And they had the steak and eggs on special. And I was like, it was like 8-ounce steak. And I'm like, top sirloin. I'm
best one I ever had was in Chicago. Beth and I decided when we went to Chicago over Christmas, we decided to splurge on a bougie hotel.
Oh, yeah.
Like we stayed at the Drake.
Ooh, nice.
And they're they give you like the free, like, oh, here's your breakfast coupons or your dinner coupons. And they found out it was my birthday. So there's like, hey, here's even more stuff. Like, thank you. So we had a really expensive bill that got shrunk down to like $30. It was awesome.
Nice.
But they had a steak and eggs and it was so amazing. I'm like, I don't know what steak they were using, but it was good. Steak and eggs just hit.
Steak out is always better. If you go, well, not always. I won't say.
So here's another question: do you put salsa on your eggs? That's my hit.
So
salsa
sometimes. So I made it was kind of like Sunday for church. Before church, I made Janelle breakfast and I took my big.
Oh, y'all got time for that?
I took my big griddle, right? Well, I made the kids too, so they were eating, so I had time.
There you go. That's true.
And she was getting ready, so I had the big griddle, the electric griddle.
Yep.
And I took eggs and milk and mixed it all up, and then I spread it out over the whole griddle and put feta cheese and cheddar cheese in it, and then I did folds after it was cooked all the way up and rolled it, and then I put a little fresh salsa on top. Oh, fire. Really good.
Next step is stick that mug in a burrito.
No. It was basically a burrito.
The egg was the burrito.
By itself.
Okay. Do we do the last question or save that one? We'll save that one.
We'll save that.
We'll save that one. We'll save Cameron McClower.
Well, that'll be the next episode.
You know what the best part about Facebook RTC fam is? I can say the proper gender of people now.
Because you can look at their profile picture.
Yep, it's really confusing though when it's like our boys.
Unless you see Caitlyn Jenner, and Caitlyn Jenner's like, hey,
and we are officially banned from Twitter, like Babylon B. No, but like our friends Jared and Marianne, with Brew It Forward Coffee Co, which they're on pause right now. They're Jared and Marianne share a Facebook. I'm like, who the heck am I talking to right now?
You never know
who I'm talking to.
Well, it's just like when people message us on Real Talk Christian podcast, they don't know who they're talking to until we say, hey.
By the way, this is Marc. This is Fuller.
Yeah. So, anyways, let's go ahead and
thank you for the banter, RTC fam.
But let's jump into the review. Do you want to read it since you're back?
I will read it.
You should read it.
I will read it. So this one is from Big Goot.
Or Bugut.
Bugut. Yeah. Just make sure you get both O's in there, not just one O, because then that's not okay.
Yeah, that's wrong.
Big Goot 102. I'm going to say, he says, Janelle was roasting us for saying genders too. But anywho, 5 stars from Big Goot 102. They say, this show is so good and uplifting for my Christian walk. You guys have brought me out of a rough patch. I hope you guys keep it going. I started with episode 1. And I am now on episode 35.
Oh, bro, you got a long way to go.
Bro, you about to hit Beth. You about to hit episode 39.
Yep.
I didn't get 39 tattooed in my arm somewhere. Love the daily talks you guys have. I'd love to support you guys with any equipment or anything, so just let me know what I could do. Sending God's love to South Carolina. Bro, we could use a new camera.
We could use a few things, but reach out to us and we'll let you know.
We could use new microphones.
Oh, yeah, that'd be good.
Let's be honest, These are amazing microphones.
These are the original microphones from day one. Day one microphones.
It's like he even says, like episode 1, man, I feel like we have been blessed to, have wives that let us support. Our wives let us spend money on the show. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
And now Lifeway helps. But, we are able to purchase some really, really cool gear that just helps us get this podcast out to people. And I feel like, we talked a couple weeks ago just about vision for what's going to come next and these things and the other. We never expected this to happen with the show.
No, and I think we both agree that, we enjoy now as we get the gear kind of finalized and stuff. I think the next step is we want to look to give more than what we actually get out of everything. And so that's the next step we'll be taking here.
Which, side note, can I just say it? If you want a Bible and you don't have one, we will send you a CSB study Bible.
Yep.
No questions.
No questions asked. We'll send it. It'll be completely free. You don't even have to pay shipping or handling.
We just want to get you a good old CSB study Bible.
So if you need a Bible,
that's not sponsored by Lifeway.
That's
the Bible we use.
That's just, we just like it. It's funny because if you look at the accuracy, it's one of the most accurate Bibles now. It really is. It's up there, right along with the ESV, the NASB, and the QJB.
No. New King Jimmy.
Yeah.
I do like New King Jimmy. But here's the thing that I like about it, right? So I have been trying really hard to lead my family a little better, and so we've been reading the Bible together more. It's not every night because let's be honest, some nights those fools need to go to bed with double melatonin. You know what I'm talking about?
Janelle was saying that tonight. She's like, I just need the kids to go to bed. She's so frustrated with them earlier.
Again,
Sorry,
Michaela,
Janelle.
I know you love your little baby, but one day you're going to want to put melatonin in that system so you can get some breaks.
Little babies, little kids, little problems. Big kids, big problems.
But what's the real fun is when little kids got big poops, and then you got to wipe that butt.
Oh, man. Speaking of big poops.
What is about that? I don't even know. Okay,
Shiloh.
What is about? Okay,
Shiloh got a bath
nervous
today.
to have a Taco Bell story.
Shiloh got a bath today. And,
Oh, no.
And he's sitting there cuddling with me.
Oh, no.
And the next thing I was like, what is that smell? Ugh, and I gagged.
Did he have a diaper on at least?
He had a diaper on, but he didn't poop. It was just gas. It was that strong. I was like, kid, where did that come from?
He's a Fuller, bro.
No, bro.
He's a Fuller with
I don't even think
he is a you baby with my hair.
He is. It's the RTC baby.
He's the RTC baby, and we are here for it, and we remind Janelle every time.
Yeah, it's funny because he looks just like me, but he has Marc's hair.
It's creepy. It is 100% creepy. And before you go, oh, well, Janelle has curly hair. That woman does not have curly hair.
She does, though.
No, she does not.
She straightens her hair.
No, I'm calling dibs on his hair. That's why I'm saying it.
He's all like, it's my hair. My hair. It's the only thing I contributed to it.
But Neil's just saying, Michaela, you're going to want to put some melatonin on them babies one of these days. I'm just saying, girl. I'm just saying. How did we get talking about that?
I don't know. But anyways,
I don't even know.
So everybody that has left a review, thank you so much. There are still 15 slots left. On the,
I was reading Bible for family devotions, and we've been reading through the book of Acts, and I used my CSB, and my kids, even Elliot, who's 6, knows exactly the words I'm saying. There's none of these weird "these thous mustn't" and becometh this is.
I actually like how much more close to the actual Greek that they are.
Yep, and it flows. It flows. So I just wanted to finish that thought. But
anyways, so we still got 15 spots left on the Apple iTunes
as of data recording
review. If you hurry up and do that, you can have a chance to win your own study Bible.
Yep,
along with other things.
And you know what today? Oh, actually, you know what tomorrow is? Day of recording. You know what tomorrow is? March 26th. It's my first wedding anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
And you were there up at the altar with me, but I did not marry this man.
Well, I mean, it was close.
But you and Devin went through all the crap with me, and you guys got to stand up there with me and Beth. So I just want to first off say thank you, and I love you.
Love you too,
buddy.
And
second off, I love you too, Beth. I just want brownie points. So happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
We're going to the movies and dinner with no kids.
Nice. We're going to go take our kids to go see the Beauty and the Beast at Bethel tomorrow.
I thought about doing that.
So we're pretty excited.
Good anyways, guys. So let's jump in.
So today's episode, it actually came from one of our listeners. They had talked about, can you guys do an episode on the last days? And it's like, well, we kind of already did some eschatology.
Yeah. What eschatology have we done?
So we just did a review of eschatology of the different pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib, amillennial, premillennial, post-millennial.
We did that. Then was that the same episode about like the New Jerusalem? Was that the same episode?
No, that was a different episode. Okay. So then we did that one. What's the New Jerusalem coming down?
So I think that's all we really
and that's all we've done on it. And so, but rather than pinpointing down an exact eschatological belief, we're just going to take a look at the scriptures, right? Especially,
which is what you're supposed to do,
right? We're going to really focus in on 2 Timothy 3, 1 through 5. So if you have your CSB study Bible, open up now.
Such a plug. I love it.
That was a weird laugh, dude.
I'm pulling up. I don't have my CSB study Bible.
You know what? You have the CSB right there.
Well, I know, but I want to keep it in front of me.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to go ahead and read this, and this is what we're going to focus in on as we go along, looking at not just looking at, but discussing what we see in today's world and how can we as Christians counteract it. So here we go. 2 Timothy 3, 1 through 5. But know this, hard times will come in the last days, for people will be lovers of self, lovers of money, boastful, proud, demeaning, disobedient to parents, ungrateful, unholy, unloving, irreconcilable, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, without love for what is good, traitors, reckless, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, holding to the form of godliness but denying its powers. Sorry, my screen just skipped down here. Denying its power, avoid these people. So that's what we're going to look at. We're going to focus in on that thing and see how much of that correlates to today. But disclaimer, and we'll talk about this at the end of the second episode. Okay, this is probably going to spread out.
I'm trying to hold my tongue. I'm really trying to hold my tongue.
But let's talk about this. So this scripture was written 2,000 years ago and was relevant then,
right?
And we're going to look at how relevant it is today.
And that's where the struggle is, because like I was reading today, not today, it was a couple days ago in 2 Thessalonians, and it talked about what did they basically the Antichrist, like the man of perdition, right? Isn't that the King Jimmy version? Yep. The man of lawlessness. That's what the CSB says, the man of lawlessness. So I was talking about that and how what it's going to be like when that man comes, what it's going to be like on the world, and what we should do. But then the Apostle Paul also says, so a lot of you are just sitting on your butts waiting for Jesus to come back. Get off your butts. And that's when he says those who don't work should not eat.
Right.
Because Christians were like, oh, Jesus coming back. I'm going to quit my job and I'm just going to hang out to glory.
Sure.
And so but you read stuff like that, and then you read stuff that you read like in Revelation, and then you read stuff like you're reading here right now, and it talks about these will come in the last days. And then at the end of this verse, end of verse 5, it says, avoid these people. So I'm like, hold up. So in the last days, this is what the people are going to be like. So avoid these people. And it's like, so what really are the last days?
So we're going to kind of touch, not so much focusing on are these the last days, because I believe, and I think you believe, that
it depends on your eschatology.
The last days have been going on for 2,000 years, because I look at a scripture that was written 2,000 years ago and see how relevant it is.
And this is where some of the eschatology comes from, because if you're the post-millennial, you think the world's going to get better and Christianized until it's good enough for Jesus to come back.
Sure.
Then there's a millennial where it's like, we're just going to be until Jesus shows up. And there's other people who are, like I'm post-trib, so I think we'll live through the revelation, then, or we'll live through the tribulation.
Right.
But then we have the millennial reign of Christ. Right, I mean, there's all these different views. So some of that goes into that, and what the day of the Lord is, and all that kind of fun
and
stuff,
it does, but I don't want to focus so much on that. I want to focus on what we see in the world today.
Okay.
And discuss what we see in the world today based upon this scripture, and how can we, in this day and age, counteract these types of people.
And because it says avoid these people.
It says avoid them.
Paul says avoid them.
But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't love them, right? Because it always goes back to loving your enemies and all this stuff. So and
as a plug, we're going to talk about in 2 episodes from now toxic relationships and how to handle those. So I think that's a good coming out of this into that.
Yeah, and it's going to be great. And so it's also, how do we not be these people, right? So it's kind of a triple-edged sword kind of thing going on here. Yeah, it's a lot of swords.
Didn't know that was a thing. Wow.
There is. It's a triangle. It's a triple-edged sword. The Trinity. Oh, I didn't even plan that.
All right, let's do it, man.
So, lovers of self. This is the very first one. If you're following along, all you got to do is go, what was the first thing? It says people will be lovers of self. We're going to continue on and go through the thing. So, lovers of self. In this day and age, there's a lot of focus on self rather than others. The late Gordon Tullock, an eminent economist, once said the average human being is about 95% selfish in the narrow sense of the term.
In the narrow sense of the term.
So that's a lot of selfishness. And that's, this guy is not a Christian. He's just saying.
He's just an economist.
Yeah, right. So that's a pretty big thing. But do we see that in the world today, right? So if we look, and I was trying to get some statistics. Well, I was just trying to get at some statistics, which I was like, there were so many, I was like, I don't even know what to choose. So, but, there's self-empowerment, self-improvement, self-help. And some of these things are good things, right?
They're not all bad things.
But when you focus constantly on yourself and don't focus on what we're called to do, right?
And I think that's where the struggle comes, because Jesus says, like lay down, like basically you have to
self-examine.
Pick up your cross and follow him and love others, not just focus on yourself.
Sure. So there are those things that you're supposed to meditate, upon His word day and night. You're supposed to examine yourself, right? Mm-hmm. That old scripture, take the plank out of your own eye before you try to take the speck out of your brother's eye.
It's true.
So there is self-examination that has to take place. But is there so much self-examination? And I think this is where we've gotten to in the world today, where it's just, I'm so focused on me, and it's not focused on me and the things that I'm doing that is hurting the gospel or hurting others. It's how are people hurting me all the time? And then we're going to get into this more in the toxic relationship.
Yeah.
So I don't want to,
but there are a lot of, and again, I'll be very careful how I say this,
Sure.
but there are a lot of people who do play the victim.
Sure. Well, and those people are typically called narcissists.
Right.
Like we look at, sorry, I've been listening to, finally I've gotten around to listening to the Rise and Fall of Mars Hill.
Oh, goodness.
And
That podcast was
and not to
so
I'm
sad.
not trying to speak evil of Mark Driscoll. I really feel bad for everything that happened with Mars Hill. And I really pray that if Mark Driscoll hasn't repented, that he does repent of some of the things that he did. But we look at Mark Driscoll, and he's definitely a type of narcissist, right?
Mm-hmm. And a lot of other pastors who have fallen in recent times
have that narcissistic.
Which we're talking about that in the 7 deadly sins with,
Right.
with pride and
Right.
with gluttony and all these different things.
But you could see how in the later days of Mars Hill, how it was very Mark Driscoll focused on what he wanted, right? I want to get to the 50,000 people church. I want to do this. I want to be the one that prays it. It was very self-focused.
He said behind the Mars Hill bus, there's a lot of dead bodies, and he was proud of that fact.
And then he said, and hopefully by the end of it, there's going to be a mountain of dead bodies. He said
it's
a
like,
hill.
It's
yeah,
like,
right.
what does that mean? Jesus didn't come to
Right.
do that. Jesus came to pick up the hurt and the hurting, those who are sick.
So we see a lot of this self-love, right? And that's what I think that this is talking about. And I think that's where a lot of that toxic relationship can possibly, if you're got a person that you're dealing with who's just so full of self-love that you've gone beyond just the self-examination. Now you're into the self-love where I love myself so much and it's all about me and it's how you hurt me and you should do all these things for me, and that's all. It's just focused on me.
And both with too much of a good thing or the bad thing, because like even with my personal story, part of the stuff that went down with my ex-wife or whatnot,
Right.
like all of that happened because of, in my opinion, a love for self in terms of, well, I want this, so I'm going to go do this, and this and this. And who cares what the truth is? I mean, this was a statement that one of them said. Who really cares what the truth is? It's just, let's just focus on us right now. And so it's like, back up that gravy train.
And you're not doing this for me or that for me or this and that. And that.
Which, as husbands, we need to make sure we love our wives.
But here's the thing, and I forget who said it to me, but it was years ago. And they said that when you're focusing on a relationship, right? Mm-hmm. If you're looking at yourself, it's how can you be better for that person?
Right. How can you love and serve the other person?
Yes. But when you focus on how unfair that person is treating you, well, you can't control that person. You can only control yourself. And so you should always, no matter if they're doing what they're supposed to do or not, you should still be doing the right thing towards them. That's love.
And this is where I think it gets hard, where people are like, okay, I hear that, but then how do you speak the truth in love? Which we talked about on the show.
Yes, we did.
We did the classic replay, which got downloaded a lot of times.
So, fun fact: if you add those two together, it's our #1 hit. If you add those two, I was like, wait, all we did was just replay it, and it got more hits than the first time. But if you add those two together, it's #1 on our download list, which is pretty awesome.
That's pretty dope. But I think people are like, okay, so how do you speak the truth in love? Because like now, if I'm not fulfilling my responsibility as a husband and as a father, as much as it hurts to say, and Beth will, I want Beth to say, hey, you're failing in this area and it's hurting our family.
Right.
But she also says that out of love for me.
Sure.
Not just love for her.
And it continues.
I think that's where that struggle that people deal with is.
And it continues more of if you constantly focusing on what the other person is doing wrong to you, you're never really focusing on what you're doing wrong to the other person.
And I think that might come more the speck in the log.
Sure. So, I think the best thing that we can do to counteract the lovers of self, right, is to love others, right? Rather than doing so much self-focus.
1 Corinthians 13,
There's a difference between loving self and self-examination. And maybe we should just do a whole podcast episode on self-love versus self-examination.
Which we did talk a little bit of that one about the topic roulette, when Janelle just put something in an envelope and we opened up and answered the question.
Right, yeah. So, but I'd love to really dive into that.
We're talking about me time.
That's what it was, yeah. So, and so, I think the loving others is the counterpoint to the self-love. And 1 Peter 4:8 says, above all, maintain constant love for one another, since love covers a multitude of sins. Isn't that awesome, right? If you're truly loving, The sins it covers up. And it doesn't mean that the sins aren't there. It means you can, if you love somebody, you can look past the sins and continue to love them. I didn't say you continue to tolerate them, but you continue to love them through the sins, right? And so I think that is the way to counteract the lover of self.
And I'm even pulling up, 1 John 3, where it talks about, this is a message that you have heard from the beginning. We should love one another.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's just what it is. And then, it continues on. Actually, it doesn't continue. It's before that, where it talks about, like, hearing his love, not that we love God, but that God loved us.
Right.
And sent his son according to his purpose.
Right.
And the fact of love does, like love does. Like, it does something. You got to put some feet to just say it. Kind of like, going back to James, where it's like, yeah, great. You say you believe, you say you have love, but until you do it, can you believe it? In the same way of, if I say I love you, Fuller, but I never show up and do anything for you. Is that really love?
Right.
Because love costs me something.
Right. Yep.
It costs something when to love somebody else.
And love expects nothing in return.
Correct.
Nothing. And so that's the main key to remember.
And that's a big struggle, man. And I'm thinking, lovers of self, I'm thinking of like me in my situation where it's like, man, it's easy to fall into that trap.
Oh, so easy.
Like, man, I'm even thinking of the times where it's like, I just want to hide in the bathroom for an extra little 5 minutes because the kids are nuts.
Yeah, or like,
I just need a break.
Right, right. Yeah, or just like, hey, maybe I'm going to,
treat myself.
I'm going to drive a little slower on my way home from wherever to just give me a little bit of extra.
Confession?
No, I'm just.
Is that a confession?
It's not a confession. I'm just saying
it's a confession.
Okay, whatever. But anyways.
Go and sin no more.
So
lovers of self.
So don't be a lover of self, right? This is how we counteract that. We got to be lovers of others.
Yep.
So, look at that. We're almost at 40 minutes and we're just getting started.
Holy crap.
All right.
Wow.
This is why it's a two-parter.
These poor people. And y'all hang out with us every week.
So this one is kind of an interesting thing. And I pulled up a statistic more for the Christian side of things rather than just the whole world, because it's even worse in the world. But lovers of money. Did you know, and you probably know this being that you were a pastor in a church for a while.
Yep.
But very few Christians actually tithe. Really only about 5% of churchgoers actually tithe.
Which I've always, that's crazy. As a pastor, I've seen that, statistic all the time. My question has always been, when people say, like, do you tithe? Like, if someone say, hey, Mark, do you tithe right now? Like, I would have said, yeah, but right now it's like, well, it's not really quite 10% anymore because we're refiguring out the finances and we're going to readjust and situate. So do I technically tithe? No, but I give sacrificially still too.
Right.
So I wonder if some people are like, do you tithe? Well, not really tithe. I'm like 8%, 7%. Like, I wonder if it's that or if it's the fact of people just don't give to the local church.
Well, and
to the mission, just to the mission in general.
According to Vanco Payments, it says only 5% of churchgoers actually give a tithe, any type of tithe,
which is fascinating.
So 5% of churchgoers is supporting the church. Imagine if it was 100% of churchgoers were tithing.
And can I ask you a question about this? Because there's a pastor that I follow on social media, and they're doing their second tithing series. I don't know if they do one a year. And it's catchy title. It's good stuff. And they talk. There's a very fine line that I found where it's like, give money to God and then God will bless you, because there is truth to that statement of, when you give sacrificially, God does bless you. Not necessarily monetarily. I mean, God will provide all your needs, and it's not our money in the first place. So I get that. I understand that.
Right.
And you hear of people all the time where it's like you're talking about when you did your mission trip down in Mexico. And people were just giving you stuff left and right, and you're like, "Oh, I don't need any of it." And people were giving the shirts off their backs, basically.
Well, yeah, and they had nothing to call their own anyway.
Right, but I've always wondered, how do we handle that as Christians and pastors and teachers, where it's like we want to teach people, yes, give to the Lord, and the Bible even says, God loves a cheerful giver, and the only place in the entire Bible where it says, God says, "Test me," is in the area of our finances. So how do we handle pastors who do these massive, like, secure the bag type messages? You don't know that terminology, do you know that terminology, secure the bag?
I've heard it, but I don't understand.
But where it's like, like you got to tithe, you got to give, you got to give, you got to give.
Right.
And you're like, okay, so why are you wanting people to give? Because you got these multi-million, billion-dollar
facilities?
Where,
so this is where,
this
is where it comes into some trouble, right?
Right. I've only heard Scott preach like 2 or 3 sermons over 6 years.
Tithing is
8 years.
Tithing is super biblical, right? It's got
so we had the episode on. I wouldn't say
we did, and it's
tithing's New Testament, but it's a good place to start.
Right, but it's not necessarily just money, right? So we see the first type of tithing,
the first fruits.
The first type of tithing was Cain and Abel, right?
Yep.
Back all the way in Genesis, right? And so they're giving what they called an offering in the Old Testament, but it was a form of tithe.
Yep.
The first fruits of their labor.
Right.
And we talked about in that tithing episode that it doesn't always have to be money. It can be time. It can be energy. It can be all these other things that we talked about.
But Jesus also says, no one can love God and money.
Right. And so it becomes very, when we're talking about, okay, very few Christians tithe. And when we're bringing up that as far as finances go, because we're talking about being lovers of money, right? So what is a lover of money? In this world today, I can see these multi-million-dollar corporations, multi-billion-dollar corporations where they do not pay their employees well, right? I'm a union guy. But to me, they're doing this and they're getting more money, and I see a huge problem with that, right? Because they're being lovers of money.
I don't want to go. I don't want to go too far onto this.
Sure.
But you got you got Elon Musk, you got Jeff Bezos, you got these big shot billionaires who make millions, billions, and billions, but then they pay a lot of their employees $12 an hour, $13 an hour,
right?
And are you saying like that, where some people are super, super greedy?
So I'm saying that there is that, right? We see that in the world today, but we also see a different type of person. We see those people that work all the overtime, right? So they sacrifice family, they sacrifice relationships, they sacrifice going to church, they sacrifice these things because of,
it's all about the money.
I got to get this money because I've got to pay off my house, I got to buy a new car, I got to do this. And so it's like they're so focused on the material things and that love of money that they can fall into the trap of being a lover of money because of the I want, rather than actually do they need it. And so that's a big thing that I see that is prevalent in the church, and I have to be careful of, because sometimes I get in that aspect myself of, oh yeah, I found out, this is going to sound horrible, but I got a lot of dentistry work that I got to have done, and I won't say how much dentistry
man, really?
work. I'll tell you after the show.
Oh, geez.
But
just don't show me. I don't want to see it.
But it's going to cost quite a pretty penny for it, and I'm like, well, I got to start working overtime because I got to pay for this. And then today I was sitting there thinking about it at work, and I'm like, you know what? No, I don't. I'm going home early because I shouldn't have to sacrifice my family time in order to make up for something that's going to cost me something, that this is a fleeting moment in time. And as long as my family and their needs are taken care of, right? Food, shelter, food, clothing, those are kind of the basic necessities.
But that's your responsibility as a father to provide those for your children.
Right. So as long as they're provided for, the rest of it, you got to leave in God's hands. And so I have a responsibility and have the opportunity to be able to work more to get more money for my family. But is it worth the sacrifice that I have to give up in order to get that?
Like, we're not saying money is a bad thing.
No, it's the love of money.
The other thing too is when you're going after money, you'll what's the word I'm looking for? You'll compromise on your convictions and your standards and your ethics and your morals.
Right.
Like you hear people all the time where it's like, they were chasing the money, they were chasing the dream, and because of that, like you said, they lost their families, they lost they lost their kids, they lost sometimes their jobs.
Right.
Like, I mean, even a famous pastor, he was, again, a good spiritual thing. He was chasing the dream of having 1 million people come to follow Jesus, that he turned to alcohol, destroyed his life, destroyed his marriage.
Right.
And I mean, he was at his lowest of lows. Now, thankfully, I believe that God has restored him and that he's doing some really, really cool things. But at the same time, he will flat out tell you that he lost sight of what he was doing. I mean, it's a good thing to want people to follow Jesus.
Right.
But it's the same idea with money. It's not a bad thing to, have a good job and provide for your family and do super cool things. But when you love money so much that you're willing to put anything on this altar, it's hard. So
how do we counteract that? We gotta not love money to the point where we're sacrificing other things. And the best way to do that, honestly, in my opinion, is learn to be a good giver, right? It doesn't have to be to a ministry. It doesn't have to be, 10% all the time. I'm talking about be a giver beyond that. Be a giver of, hey, I'm going to go help this brother put up a fence.
Be known as a giver.
I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna give some of my time, right? Mm-hmm. Sacrifice some of my time to help somebody else, not for a benefit of myself. And so that's not a bad thing to sacrifice for. Now you have to be careful because there's another line, right?
And that's exactly where I was just saying. Like, so wait, that's hard. There is how do we balance these lines?
So if you're sacrificing, your first and foremost ministry is always to your family, right?
Right.
As a man.
Yep.
And
even the Apostle
as a mom,
Paul
as a
says
wife, right.
Because it's not about married people. They have to be involved in the affairs of the world. But he said, I'm single and I get to do all this.
Which is why he said, I would have rather have it that you remain single, just as I am, because it's easier to focus on the things for the Lord. Mm-hmm. So you have to balance that out. You can't sacrifice too much where you're sacrificing your responsibility to your family,
right?
But
where you're destroying them.
I could go, well, instead of gonna go and watch TV for an hour, I'm going to go and make this phone call and pray with this brother for an hour. That type of giving of your time that you would normally
there's always time that we just waste on Instagram stories.
We Americans are the biggest, guiltiest charged time wasters ever. Yep. Throughout history, I think we are the biggest time wasters.
Because we have the leisure to do it.
Sure.
Like I was reading a study that was primarily talking about the fact that in today's culture, like not today's culture. I want to back up to the 1980s and 1970s, where it was like the man went out and had a job, the woman stayed home to be homemakers. But the question was why? It was the fact of this is even before. Let's back up to the 1800s, where if a wife was a homemaker, it's because it was a grueling job, to make everything by yourself, whether clothes or food or everything. Everything had to be done, so you had to make your home.
Right.
And then, the husband had to go out into the fields to make sure that the harvest was ready and the crops were coming in and doing all these different things. And then you still had school, and a lot of times the dad would also teach when the wife would be doing other things, or the wife would. It was a communal experience for a husband and wife to do the hard work. Whereas today in American culture, we have, which I'm thankful for because my job is built off of this, is we have so many cool tools that make our life so easy.
Oh, yeah.
Where we have all this downtime. And there's a part of me that actually wonders if a lot of the sin that Christians commit is because we're bored.
I've heard that before. I've heard that that's why we get into so much trouble is because we have all this downtime. Right. So we need to counteract it. We need to be a good givers, right? 2 Corinthians 9:6-7 says, the point is this: the person who sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and the person who sows generously will also reap generously. Each person should do as he has decided in his heart, not reluctantly or out of compulsion, since God loves a cheerful giver. Mm-hmm. That's all. Everybody is like, oh, God loves a cheerful giver, and that's the only part of the verse they say. But it says not out of compulsion or reluctantly. So,
and that's it. And that thing is, we're not. Even with you guys as listeners, we're not forcing you to get rid of your money.
No,
it's just a question of you can't serve God of money, and generally, where you spend the most money is where you have the most.
Where your heart is.
Coffee burp, sorry. Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I can tell you who your God is based on if I look at your checking account. Like I've heard pastors say that.
Or I can see where your heart is based upon your screen time. Oh.
Moving on.
Anyways. All right. So we are going to move on because we're getting close to that hour mark, and I want to get a couple more in before we end this episode, and we'll pick it back up in a second.
I'll sit down and shut up. I'm ready.
No, I love it. You keep doing what you're doing. All right. So the next one is boastful and proud. Look at the presidents we've had recently, right? So I know.
Like our actual presidents,
not presidents, like
our
the leaders,
actual,
the commander in chief,
Bush, Obama, Trump.
Bush, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
George W., Obama, Trump, and Joe Biden, right?
Okay. I'm like, what?
How many times
are we talking about?
How many times are they boasting about, look at all the achievements I've done for the American people, and me. So,
that's the job of the politician,
So there's a lot of boasting, right?
I have done this. I have done this.
And then,
I will do this.
Right. And then look at all the pride parades that we have here in America. And I know that, I think even, Sabrina, correct me if I'm wrong, even in Canada, there's a lot of pride parades that happen, but it's like this boastful, proud, like
I'm proud to be an American.
Right, exactly. Pride over nation. And we've talked about this. We've had a whole episode on pride, and that's that boastfulness comes in there.
Easiest way to find is go to realtalkchristianpodcast.com, click the little search, and type in the word pride.
Pride or 7 deadly sins. Mm-hmm. Either one. But So looking at this day and age, right? We see a lot of pride and boastfulness and look at my achievements. It's from CEOs to presidents to activists.
Well,
to
look at LinkedIn or in your, yeah, that's true. Like, I mean, everyone's talking about like the stats and whatnot. And you and I, every time we look at stats, we talked about this. It's really hard to stay humble sometimes.
Well, and
like, look at all the people reaching. We have to remember these are
the thing that I love.
People are actually, these are real people and real souls.
The stats, when I look at them, and I feel like you do the same. It's just like, wow, we really thought that there was going to be like, we really thought there was only going to be like 5 people ever listening to this podcast.
The stats that I have on the Small Church Media podcast is what we expected to have on this one.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like I never thought we were going to have more people listening to us than like what we have at Southside or what Lifeway is, or I'm sorry, I forget your church name now. Sorry,
New Life.
New Life. Thank you. I was like Lifeway. Wait, no, that's our sponsor, New Life. And how much of a reach we've had, and it's not us, it's honestly, God.
We have a Facebook community the size of a small church,
and it's awesome.
Like,
it's just really great to have that community, and it's digital friends, right? We've talked about having an episode on digital friends versus real friends before, but it's nice to be able to share stories or just share what's going on in each other's life.
You're not alone.
It's almost like you're like a blog, like you're blogging back and forth. It's kind of cool. Anyways, so we know that there's pride and there's so much temptation to fall into pride, but I think in the last days, right, when we talk about quote unquote the last days, the pride and the boastfulness is going to be great, which we see, right? And we saw it back in those days, back 2,000 years ago with the Romans, right? The emperors and everything that they had.
Yep.
Sorry, I had a coffee burp.
Janelle knows they're real now, too.
Yeah, she does. But so we had we've had boastfulness going on for a while, but it seems to be getting worse and worse, and people become more bold with it, in my opinion. But maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, bold, yes, and also brash.
Yes. Heartless.
Very, and that's where the struggle is, especially with us as, Christians, is the fact of, I think this is where we're starting to see people's true stripes of, we haven't talked about in the show, but, there's the Christian nationalism that's coming out. There's a lot of these other things where it's like, this is who we are and we're proud of it, so sit down and shut up. And now It seems like Christians are starting to war because, let's be honest, Christians, we're losing our influence in the marketplace.
Oh yeah.
And so a lot of people are trying to fight back to get them. We talked about this. Should we fight to get God back in the schools? And the answer was no. Fight to get God back in your heart first,
and then fight to get God in other people's heart and introduce him to the kingdom.
Exactly. And so our Jesus' kingdom is not of this world.
Right.
However, we also know that in the Lord's Prayer, it's like, your will be done on earth as it already is in heaven. So yes, we want this world to come to know Jesus, but is the answer through, look how proud, boastful we are as Christians, and now we're fighting back with other people who are just as proud, and then it turns into a war, and then it's that nobody wins those.
Right. And so I think what we need to do as Christians to counteract this, right, this spirit of pride and the spirit of boastfulness, which we've talked about in other podcasts, is be humble. Romans 12:3 says, "For by the grace given to me, I tell everyone among you not to think of himself more highly than he should think. Instead, think sensibly, as God has distributed a measure of faith to each one." And I think we need to remember that, right? We need to make sure we don't think highly of ourselves, because we are all sinners destined for hell, and we would be nothing without God.
And, to add 2 more verses there, whenever I see, humble yourselves, I instantly think of Jesus washing the disciples' feet.
Yes.
And basically, Jesus took the role of a slave.
The king of the universe.
The king of the world, the king of the universe, the cosmic king of the cosmos himself, Jesus, did a job that like when people would wash each other's feet. But the thing that people don't realize is a Jewish slave, a Jewish servant, was also too good to wash people's feet. They had to have outsiders wash people's
Gentiles.
feet. And Jesus did that.
Right.
And then you see in Philippians 2, where what did Jesus do? He humbled himself and fashioned himself in the form of a man. As being found in the form of a man, he humbled himself to the point of death, even the death of the cross, which basically means being humble is going out and doing stuff that it doesn't make sense to anybody.
Right.
And sometimes it hurts to serve and be humble and take the humble pill. And, I once had somebody tell me, they're like, a true sign of being humble is if you did something good and someone says, hey, great job for it, you turn the recognition to somebody else.
Right.
When you deserve the credit. Be like, no, it really, I mean, there's like false humility, but like when someone's like, oh, you did such a great job. I was like, look, it wasn't me. Like, it was this guy. Like, we were all part of the team, but he really led the way. And it's like, whoa.
Yep.
Like, not to gain more status, but it's hard to be humble.
Yeah.
It is. But we're called to be. As Christians.
But we're called to be. I like the finger point.
But we're called to be.
All right, let's try to finish up 3 more of these before we kind of land the plane on this episode, and then we'll pick up next episode.
Sounds good.
So demeaning, right?
Yep.
Verbal abuse is skyrocketing. Did you know 60% of young people have witnessed online bullying, and most don't intervene?
It's to the point where there are computer softwares that actually track teenagers' entire phones and text messages to look for bullying terms and terminology and sentences to notify the parents.
Yeah. So
the suicides are on the rise because of bullying.
Right.
Too.
In the last days, it talks about demeaning, right? Talking down, talking bad, talking. That's basically what demeaning. I'm demeaning your character.
In other words, you're
demoralizing
you're
you.
Verbally shoving someone down into a pit.
Right. Exactly. And so, I mean, this is something that. Obviously, they were experiencing back then, but we experience heavily now with the influence of social media
and it's something
media
that Christians
outlets
are very good at social media.
So speak, preach.
Oh
no, but it's true. How many times have I been? I've been on like the Chosen fan club thing on Facebook, and I'm just watching people just bash each other over some theological difference that really
on the
yeah,
really
and it's like secondary issues. Or I've seen even people that work for the Chosen bashing people for bashing people. And it's just like, why are we doing this? This is demeaning, and it's verbal abuse, and we're supposed to love each other. We're called to love each other and speak gently and be gently and speak kindly to each other.
No, I think that we don't want to say that being demeaning is the same as disagreeing and having a hard conversation, because even on this podcast, you and I don't always agree.
No,
but we never demean in the process.
But there is that aspect, and we talked about it. I talked about it with But What Does the Bible Say on their Christian Entertainment, and we also, Janelle and I talked about it last episode of, is it the right place, right? Is texting, is social media the right place to have those conversations? And I think no, because you cannot tell body language, tone, all these things communicate, right? This is how we as humans communicate. And so if it doesn't come across right through a text, you could be meaning something completely different. And it comes across wrong because it's through a text. And so I think those are not the places or the forums to have those debates.
No, and there's a friend of mine, Dr. Jen Bennett. She's down at Indiana Wesleyan. She's a communications professor down there. And she also has another podcast, and I've talked with her for multiple times about just what can we do about online to make sure we're someone worth following. That's kind of her mantra, is be someone worth following. And she actually says that when she posts something and someone says something that she knows can get into a verbal argument, she actually will say, I would love to have a Zoom conversation with you about this.
Yeah.
Someone completely outside of her domain in terms of being here in she's kind of more central Indiana, Marion. If it's someone who's not local, she will actually say, hey, I'd love to talk about this. This is just not the place. Would you like to have a phone call or a Zoom call? And not necessarily embarrass that person on her on the post, but DM them as well.
No, yeah.
But I'm like, that's pretty gutsy to say, hey,
it's true.
I want to talk with you about this. Do you have time just to sit down for coffee in person or over Zoom?
Right.
Because then you can see facial expression, you can see body language, you
tone
can
of
see
voice.
tone of voice, all these different things. Because even though you and I, and that's the hard thing with podcasts, is someone could hear us say something and be like, man, that seemed a little ungracious, but they don't get to see our body language, and they don't get to see the struggle that we have.
And there is a way to inflect body language into your tone of voice, right? So if
we've been trying really hard.
If I say, dang it, Mark, I'm so sick and tired of you saying this. Like, you don't have to look at me to understand the body language because of the tone of voice, right?
You kind of did when I said dope a lot back in the day. I'm kidding.
No.
I'm kidding. That's dope.
Yeah.
But seriously, there's a difference between disagreeing and demeaning. Demeaning is literally going after someone.
You are tearing down somebody's
because
character.
You like house churches, you're a freaking moron.
Wow.
And you just need to go
now
away.
We just got flagged.
Now that's demeaning. I'm attacking you because of opinion you have.
It's a personal attack.
Fair.
Right. It's a personal attack.
And it's not always, and normally it's not fair.
So it's
not fair.
How do we as Christians need to counteract this spirit of the last day? I think we need to be kind. Ephesians 4:32 says, and be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving one another just as God has also forgiven you in Christ, which is a big thing, right? So how many times have you been demeaned in your life? Sorry, I keep touching your leg for some reason.
No, you're okay.
But I keep...
I love you anyways.
Yeah, I'm used to Janelle now. I'm like, people are like, what? What's going on over there?
If you kiss me, so help me.
I will not kiss you. But how many times has somebody been demeaning towards us and we fire back? I know I'm super guilty of this. My pride gets hurt or something gets, and so I snap back, and it's like, it's just it's destructive, right?
Mm-hmm. It's hard to hold your tongue.
Yes, it is. And we've had that conversation on one of our podcasts of I forget the name of it, but it was about the tongue. So go into the search button, realtalkchristianpodcast.com, and type in tongue, and you'll find it.
I love it.
It's such an easy search engine. But, we got to bridle our tongue with that aspect, but we also have to forgive the demeaning spirit that has happening towards us sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. And we not only fire back, but we have to forgive them, because it's like we almost have to take and embody what Christ said on the cross of, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they do.
Right.
Most people don't know what they're doing, and so we have to...
It's really frustrating when the people know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, and that's right. But at that point, they're an enemy.
At that point, it says avoid these people.
Well, no, at that point, you have the thing of, well, if they slap you on the one side of your cheek, you're supposed to give them the other. Or if they ask for your coat, give them your cloak too. Or if they ask you to go 1 mile, go 2. Right? This is what Jesus tells us to do. When they're intentionally coming at you, you're still supposed to take it, and that's really hard for me. It really is hard for me to do, even though we're called to do it. So. We need to be kind, right?
Yep.
We need to be forgiving just as Christ, or God has forgiven us through Christ.
Yep. Wait, we have time for 1 more? 2 more?
We're going to go 2 more real fast.
Okay.
The next 2 should be pretty easy. So disobedience to parents, right? So in this day and age, we see a lot of lack of interest from parents to children. And out of that result, I think we see a lot of disobedience and negativity from children to parents, or just children to society, the disrespectfulness that comes out of that. It's everywhere. But not only does it breed that in children, it breeds that in us, right? Mm-hmm. So not just disobedient to parents, but how many times are we Christians disobedient to God, who is supposed to be our Father, right? And so Hebrews 13:17 says, obey your leaders and submit to them, right? So leaders are kind of like parents to us, right? As adults, we're supposed to submit ourselves to our leaders. Since they keep watch over your souls as those who will give an account, so that they can do this with joy and not with grief, for that would be unprofitable for you. So this is why I wanted to bring this scripture into it, because we're on a podcast, and let's be honest, most children aren't listening to this podcast.
But we still have parents, and we still got to respect our parents.
Sure, we do. Yeah, sure. But there's a difference between respect and obedience.
That's true.
It's a huge difference, right? So
because for you, if your mom or dad says something, but then Janelle says the other, you have to side with Janelle.
Well, I don't have to. I rule my own house at this point, because I'm separate from my parents. So if they say, well, you need to paint your house gray, no, I don't have to obey that. I don't.
If I tell you to paint it blue, do you have to obey me?
Yes.
Yes.
But for our leaders, right, we're supposed to subject ourselves to those who are our leaders. We're supposed to be subject to the governing authorities. There's a lot of people we have to subject ourselves to. And I read the civil disobedience. I read a bunch of articles on civil disobedience, how people actually want to challenge laws. And I get some laws are stupid, but they want to challenge all laws, and because they think government is stupid. And it's like, no, we're supposed to subject ourselves to that. We're supposed to subject ourselves to the pastors. We're supposed to subject ourselves to each other. I think a good
future episode would be is there ever a time to disobey the government?
Well, we kind of covered that in some of our...
I guess we did a little bit, like Christians and guns a little bit.
Well, and we had one on government too.
Yep.
But I think it's important to remember that in this day and age, there's a lot of disobedience to civil authority. There's a lot of disobedience from children to parents, and there's just a lot of disobedience in society as a whole. And as Christians, we need to learn to be submissive to the leaders that govern over us, because let's face it, even if you're a head pastor of a megachurch, you should have somebody that's still...
You have to have accountability.
You still should be accountable to somebody. And that's where the issue
comes, There's no accountability.
Or else you end up like Mars Hill. So that's kind of where I believe that one's at. So the last one I want to cover real fast, because we are at an hour and 4 minutes, is ungrateful. So how much ungratefulness do we see in the world today? There's so much ungratefulness, right? It's all about we are known as we're known as the me generation.
Yep.
Right? It's all about me, and
me.
I need more, I need this, I need that nice bright red Ferrari.
Well, did you know originally millennials were called Generation IY?
No.
Because Gen X, and technically we're Gen Y, then there's Gen Z.
Right.
Part of that was the I because of the iPhone.
Ah.
But the other reason...
It's all about me. It's all about I. It's all about number one. Oh, my, me, my. You said you like country.
What song is that?
Man, that's from like the 90s. It's a country song from the 90s.
I don't listen to 90s country.
You should.
I'm just getting used to country. I'm just starting to enjoy it. I actually chose to listen to country the other day.
Wow.
I like me some Chris Brown.
Anyways,
Chris Brown band? No, Zach Brown. That was really bad. The Zach Brown band.
Chris Brown is R&B.
Chicken fried.
Little bit of chicken fried. Cold beer on a Friday night. That one?
That one. Yep, that one.
That's an old one too.
It is an old one.
Sorry. That is I do not endorse that song at all. Just saying. Anyways, so being ungrateful is a big thing that we deal with this day and age, and we are actually called as Christians to be thankful and grateful in all things. 1 Thessalonians 5:16 through 18 says, "Rejoice always, pray constantly, give thanks in everything, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus." So we're supposed to rejoice always, pray constantly, and give thanks for everything. And I can honestly say I don't do that.
Nope.
I don't give thanks for everything.
Not you. I'm talking about me.
He's like, nope, you sure
do not. You do not, Fuller. You need to go back and listen to the Thanksgiving episode. That's what you need to do.
Dang it. Well, which one? We've had a few.
All of them.
Go back and listen to all of them,
Fuller.
Search bar, Thanksgiving.
But it's true. Like, man, again, I was reading another article about this one guy who was talking with his grandpa, and he was asking questions about, like, how didn't you always want something bigger and better? And didn't you want to go off somewhere else and have a different career? And he goes, why? This is what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
And, with us, with the ability to hop on our phones and see what's happening all over the world and other people's lives and with social media, and there's something true to be said about the FOMO, fear of missing out. And I think we as Christians just can get so sucked into this reality of there's something better out there. And in that old idiom of, the grass is always greener on the other side. Nah, Brad, it's greener where you water it.
Right.
And I think there's always that thought of like, oh man, you know what, dude, I got the iPhone. I remember when I first got my iPhone 11, I was like, dude, this is awesome. And so I was like, yo, I got the iPhone 11 Pro. And I'm like,
dang it, I want it. Yeah.
I wish I had that.
Right.
And it's like, no. I need to be thankful for the fact that I have a phone.
Well, how about, hey, this is going to hit home for you and I. So just brace yourself. Hey,
don't demean me.
I've got 1,000 downloads.
Oh, geez.
Hey, I've got 120,000 downloads. Is that good enough? No, bro, we want more.
And it's hard. It's hard.
It is hard.
And this is something that's really, this has been getting under mine and Beth's skin a lot, especially as we're starting to raise a preteen, of it seems like nothing is ever good enough.
Right.
And then when we flip the script, like, that's how we think about parents. How does God look at us and be like, dude?
He's like, you idiots.
Because you look at the passage where it's like, we're supposed to seek the kingdom of God over everything. Where it's like, Jesus says, like, the birds are clothed, the flowers have this, and like, he knows when a sparrow falls. He knows the number of hairs on your head. So sit down and shut up. Don't you think that God cares and loves and takes care of you? And we're over here like, no, Jesus, I'm thankful for my burger, but I want that bigger burger.
I want that ribeye steak.
Like, can't you just be, and this is what we've caught ourselves telling the kids, like, can you just be thankful for what we give you? Because when we give you stuff and you're not thankful, it makes me not want to give you stuff. Yep. Which then, I'm not saying God's that way.
No, because he's perfect.
But but I'm sure how many times we grieve the Holy Spirit,
So many times.
We're talked the fact of, like, God's done all these really cool things, and we either get prideful of, look what I did, or God, this is not enough for me.
Right.
And I think that's where the two come head. And that's what we're talking about in the last days. That's what people do. Because if we're talking about people who don't love God, who are lawless, all these different things, whatever terminology you want to use,
right,
that describes them. But as Christians, like you said at the beginning and top of the show, how much of this describes us?
Right.
And I think that's where the real, in my opinion, that's where the fear and trepidation, like work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. I think this is where it comes in, man.
Yeah. Man, and so we've got so much more to cover.
Do we have to pause, though?
But we need to land the airplane for this episode, man. We're gonna have to really fly through the second part because
we might have to limit our banter.
We only went through one verse, and we still got 3 more verses to go.
So come back next week. We'll have low banter and high quality content.
We're gonna fire through the banter quickly and then jump right into the content.
But we do need to land this show well.
We do,
and we got to give the people what they came here for and what they are paying their money to hear.
Wait, what? They're paying?
Time for Fun Facts with Filler.
Oh, I forgot to tell you. We've been getting money, and you just don't see it.
No,
I'm kidding.
I see it. It's just in check form that we haven't cashed. Oops, sorry, Lifeway.
That is not true, though. People do not pay for the show. But this is what people come here for, man.
Right.
We have great conversations. We have a whole lot of fun.
And then we land it with the fun facts with Fuller.
Fun facts with Fuller. And did you bring your reading glasses tonight?
No, because
you're
my
not
name
Janelle.
is Janelle. You know, it's funny because she's like, he's saying I'm old, but I've had glasses since I was 17. I was like, wait, his wife wears glasses. What's he talking about? People wear glasses that are old. You're going to get in trouble.
Beth is old.
No, she's not.
Have you seen the Instagram where it's like, I got a cougar in the car?
Does that what you
a cougar in the car.
Is that
I make fun of her because she's 6 months. Not even 6 months. She's like 3 months older than me. Wait,
Beth.
September, October, November. I say 4. She says 3. I don't know.
I tried really hard before you guys got married. I tried really hard to prepare him to really take care of you well.
Love you.
I'm sorry.
But let's be honest, homegirl can run circles around me. Man.
Yes. Well, she can run circles around me too. So can Janelle, man.
But anyway, we love our wives very much. So for the dude, we have had the people on the show for well over an hour. We've been talking about some hard stuff, so let's send them on their way with a fun fact to take them into their week so they can come back and finish the conversation.
So since we're getting into warmer weather here in northern Indiana, I figured that I would bring in this fun fact, the fun fact of the day. The largest sandcastle in the world measured about 54 feet high.
Really?
It took 168 trucks over a week to deliver enough sand for this carefully sculpted masterpiece to be made. And
I did not know that.
And that was the fun fact. And
That's
I know people
really
are
good fun
going,
fact.
what was the sculpture? And I forget because I didn't write it down.
It was this guy right here. It was a big, muscular, Herculean sculpture of Fuller.
Speaking
of, where is this going?
I got to start. So we're at.
Oh no! What did I start?
We were at dinner tonight, right? And we were singing the Gaston song because we're going to see Beauty and the Beast tomorrow. And the girls were like trying to lift the table, like trying to eat food.
Gaston.
Well, they were trying to eat food and be like, I'm going to get big muscles and lift this table. And they were trying so hard. And I put my one arm on the table and then I lifted the whole table with my other arm. They're like, oh, Dada, you got big muscles. It's so funny.
It's so easy to impress little kids.
Yeah, it's like, man, that made me feel really good. And it's like nothing.
So what I'm hearing you say is if you ever want to feel strong, just come over to Fuller's house for dinner, lift up the table, and watch the Fuller kids go, what?
You got big. But they also tell me, wow, Daddy, you got a big belly, too. So,
no, they don't.
All the time. Almost every day.
Kids are walking humble pills, bro.
Yeah. So I got big muscles, but I got a big tum-tum, too. So.
I love it. Well, just like always, guys, we would love for you to connect with us. We always say go to realtalkchristianpodcast.com, email us realtalkchristianpodcast@gmail.com, text us at 574-400-5352.
Yes, sir.
But now you can officially join the RTC Fam Facebook community. The easiest way to find that is go to our Facebook page. Just go to Real Talk Christian Podcast Facebook page. There should be a groups tab where it can take you to that group tab, or just search. I think it's just RTC.
No, it's
Fam.
Real Talk Christian Podcast Community.
So that's all they need to search in Facebook, and it's right there.
Right there.
And we would love for you to connect with us over there because we interact. We try to interact daily on that thing, and we have a whole lot of fun. But, dude, today's episode was a lot of fun. I am looking forward to our conversation. So is there anything else we need to say before we let these people go on their merry way?
Don't forget to leave a review on iTunes.
Oh, please, because we still got to get to that 100 reviews for that giveaway.
We got another giveaway coming up. We got 15 slots left, so jump on iTunes.
As of date of recording, who knows what it's going to be at time of release.
I'm hoping that it jumps.
But we need to get there. We've been doing a lot of Spotify rating, which is awesome, but we need more iTunes. So RTC fam, get on it. But just like always, until next time,
take it easy.